Good afternoon, everybody. If you could be taking Russ's pulse right now, there would have been a spike. We're so proud of our Chamber of Commerce. Could you give yourselves and the Chamber a big round of applause? We love partnership and we love seeing our partners here, and we are having a great Treasure Coast Business Summit, and it's nice to see the Chamber and the Treasure Coast Business Summit working together and taking advantage of this opportunity and this forum. If you were here this morning, you got to hear a really special speaker and Mr. Bush and talking about really kind of a foundational family of America, and it was tremendous. And I had the opportunity to introduce and be part of that presentation. And if you were here, you know that I talked about all the negative stuff, all the hard stuff, where we were at in the depths of the Depression, and I pointed kind of the spotlight on where we are now, which is somewhere much different, that hope is back, our performance is back, business is back, and we're really prospering in Port St. Lucie. And if you know, and we have a lot of insiders here, you know that the city manager's job or the county administrator's job, Mr. Tipton, is to deal with all the negative stuff, so that your elected officials and councils and mayor could talk about the good stuff. But I set up Mr. Blackburn. We talked about all the negative this morning, and now our city manager, who we're very proud to have, who is one of the best city managers in the state of Florida. He's gonna share how Port St. Lucie is not only prospering or flourishing. Mr. Russ Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Knocking dead.
Yeah. Well, it is a pleasure for me to be here because Port St. Lucie is the best city in the state of Florida. I'm not prejudiced at all. This is it. So I had a chance to come to speak to this luncheon last year, and I was fairly new, and I kind of knew what I was talking about, but this year we're living it. And so it's really, there's some wonderful things happening in our city. But before I go too far, did any of you attend our Citizens Summit that was held last week? What'd you think? So we had a Citizens Summit last week as part of our community engagement process. We had 300 or so people come through that Citizens Summit. Wonderful team put it on. The mayor and council members were all present. It was a really great opportunity for citizens to share their expectations of the city. And we were just really pleased that people took the time to come out and be with us. And it really was a phenomenal event. So what I'd like to do today is talk a little bit about the past, a little bit about the present, and a lot about the future. So we've been very fortunate as a city. We've had some big capital projects going on. We've been really focused on really trying to identify kind of how do we find out what our citizens want and need, and how do we address those needs. You've met and you heard from our city council members a little bit, but we have 3 council members here today. Let me go ahead to those. Certainly, you met Mayor Oravec, Vice Mayor Shannon Martin, and Council Member Stephanie Morgan. And Stephanie is somewhere here. There we go. Yeah. So, and we, greatly appreciate you being here as well. I'm very fortunate to have a great team of bosses and a great team of employees that all of us work together to make life better in Port St. Lucie. So our vision as an organization, not the vision for the city, but our vision as an organization is to deliver outstanding service, to engage our citizens, and to be proactive problem solvers. So it doesn't work just to solve issues when they come up. We want to be proactive and try to anticipate them and to ensure that we're providing the kind of services that you need as our businesses and our citizens in the community. So we do that with a foundation, and I really applaud the city council and the mayor for being more than 100% committed to strategic planning. Every year, as a city council, the council gets together, talks about what are the needs in our community, and identifies goals and objectives that will try to move us toward that wonderful city that all of you enjoy living in. One of the main topics that I'm going to talk with today is about diversifying our economy and expanding our job base. But in each of these goals, we have champions, teams of employees, in some cases assisted by citizens, all working toward implementing our strategic plan. It is our roadmap to success, and I would say, having been through the last year, and I hope you'll agree that it is really helping us to absolutely stay focused and achieve the things that are necessary in our community. So the council asked me and your staff earlier in the year, well, how do we know we're doing a good job? And it's really easy to say whether it's your business or it's the county government or the city government. We all say, oh yeah, we're doing a great job. Well, you answer that question, and certainly you hope that you're doing that. But one of the ways that we try to verify how we're doing as a city is by surveying our residents. So this year, we actually did a survey conducted by the National Citizen Survey Group. It's a group that does surveys of service and issues nationwide, and they really focus on city and county government. And this year we got some really good information back from our citizens. One is we thought this was the first time this survey had been done. We were pleasantly surprised that the survey was done in 2009. And it tells you there's been some turnover in both, in our community since then. But we found that we had made about a 20-point improvement between 2009 and this year when we did 2018 when we did the survey. So 80% of our residents said that Port St. Lucie is an excellent or good place to live. 75% felt the same about our quality of life, our quality of citizen services, and 83% felt like Port St. Lucie was a safe community. And so those are very important. I want to note on the last point there, Port St. Lucie continues to be the safest large city in the state of Florida. And that is something we should all really be proud of. So we're the third safest city in the state. And when you consider these little tiny places and bigger cities like Miami, and then we have us at 185,000, to be the third safest city in the state is a very tall task. And we're very proud of that. We have a great police chief, a great police department. The city council is very supportive, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure we maintain the safest large city in the state of Florida. So I mentioned I want to focus a good bit on our objective of diversifying our economy. And your city council, your city staff have really worked very hard to take that to heart, to recognize that you can't do one thing. We have to do a lot of different things to ensure that we have jobs available for our citizens, that they're good jobs, that the city government, and I know Howard feels the same, the county government, are helpers in making that happen, not impediments. So this year we did some things that I think are showing as we look at our major indicators. So looking from 2017 to 18, you'll see that our just overall number of building permits are up from 2,717 to 3,518. Now, an interesting stat, and we can't know that this will continue, but between January and April, or May 15th actually, you'll see that our numbers, we're already 50% of the 17 number. And so we would project that we're going to be on a record pace for the most number of single-family permits, the highest number of building permits that have been pulled in the city of Port St. Lucie, which all tells us that as a place to do business, as a place to live, this is economically, socially a very vital community with lots going on. And I kind of marvel personally. I had a chance to work in a number of different cities and counties, and typically your new growth is clustered in your green fields. Those are, and that's, we think about that as the tradition area, the areas where, you're doing brand new subdivisions and new developments. But over 50% of the single-family building permits that have been pulled in the city of Port St. Lucie are in our traditional platted community. So those lots that were platted by GDC, since 1961, over 50% of our new building permits are on our platted lots, and that to me shows a tremendous confidence in our city. So not only do we have new development going on, which you would expect, it's Florida, and we have a lot of opportunities, but we have folks making investments in our existing neighborhoods, and I don't think we could ask for anything better to get that kind of mix. So as we look at these permits, you can see just in the 5-month period, we're up by 30% compared to last year. And that means we all have new places to shop, new places to go to restaurants, to go get a beer, if we want to. I had a chance to go out to Hopcat a couple weeks ago, really phenomenal place. So we've got a couple of things coming. We had Lucky's Market is coming, Floor Decor under construction right now. We've got a new Chick-fil-A coming, Texas Roadhouse, a really good indicator of the kind of businesses that are coming to the city. And again, they're in our traditional areas as well as our new areas. So I think that's positive for the city of Port St. Lucie. So you can see a variety of different kind of businesses as well. So a lot of business opportunities in the city. So does that happen by itself? Well, certainly as a growing city with a good population, you'll see some of that development occurring. But it also takes being prepared. And so certainly the city council has given direction that we want to be a welcoming city. They expect the staff to be proactive and to ensure that we're helping businesses get through the process, and that when we ask folks, how do we do, we want them to have a positive answer. But this year we did several things that we've tried to really address the systems that we have to make sure that individuals and businesses can get through our process. One is we organize with a group called our Development Task Force. It's all of our departments that have a dog in the fight on land development, whether it's a building permit or traditional land development, getting your zoning and your land use and your plat. They all work together as a team, and that's critically important because the nature of the kind of services that the city and counties offer there's a big tendency to be silos. I've got my job, I'll do it. We know as a city that we will not be successful if we don't work as a team. And so one of the things we've done is organize to ensure that all of our departments work as a team. That team is facilitated by Jesus Moreo and Patricia Roebling. They meet bi-weekly to look at what are our development issues, how can we do better to try to serve our customers and really identify a roadmap for continuous improvement. Another thing the council did this year, and I'm very pleased with, the council approved a position similar to St. Lucie County's position, a business navigator. Elijah Wooten. Elijah, if you'd stand up, please. Elijah's our business navigator. If you're thinking about pulling a permit for an expansion of a business or a new business, if you got a problem, see Elijah. Don't let him get out of the room. So Elijah has been very, very helpful with a number of businesses and is really there to assist you. He's been here all day. He's passing out flyers, information for folks. And Elijah's your troubleshooter. If there's any issue that you have, he's there to help you work through it. Sometimes it's an issue on the city staff's part. Sometimes it's just a lack of understanding, and Elijah can help you through those processes. So we live in a competitive economy and a competitive world. And one of the things that we saw as a city is that other cities were able to offer some assistance to businesses that were expanding, were having substantial hiring, substantial investments, and we as a city had very little to offer other than being a great place to live. So this year the City Council agreed to pass a targeted industries impact fee program. So it's based on the number of jobs and the capital investment by the business. We have some good examples. This is a program that was promoted by Pete Tesh and Jill Marassa and the EDC. I know Fort Pierce has adopted the program, as well as, I believe, St. Lucie County. And so what it should say to you as a citizen of St. Lucie County and the city of Port St. Lucie is that your city, your county, the city of Fort Pierce, we're all firmly committed to working with business to try to expand our economy. So the other thing that we've done, and we were very pleased that the Chamber of Commerce, the Treasure Coast Builders Association, the EDC, all took the time to come into our city, meet with our departments that are involved in the development and review process, and develop a fairly long list of improvements, things that they felt like as users of our services, that if we could try to address some of these issues, we'd be even better at helping businesses get through our process and be more efficient and effective. And thank you, Teresa, Wes McCurry, who's now part of the city, was on that team, Pete and others, and Maddie Williams. Great job, and we're fully committed. We've implemented probably 80% of the recommendations, and the other 20 are on the way. So we thank you, Teresa, for doing that. And we're, one of the things is it's often, easy to envision a new program. And so the difficult thing is once you start it, you got to continue it. So I'm applauding the task force, the Development Review Task Force is continuing to meet with us, continuing to meet with the county, with Fort Pierce, to try to ensure that we're getting feedback on how we're doing. And so that's been very beneficial for the city. So one of our big announcements this year, an existing business in our community, City Electric, was looking nationally. They looked at Texas, they looked at North Carolina. They were going to move from Port St. Lucie. We couldn't have that. They're a large employer. They employ around 350, 400 people right now. And they were looking to not only they currently manufacture lighting equipment. The lights we see right here are probably made by City Electric. And they wanted to expand to not only do a greater level of manufacturing assembly, but also to distribute in this area. And so we went through this national competition, was intense. The EDC handled the competition with us, did a great job, and we're pleased to announce, and many of you have probably heard, but it's really important to know that City Electric chose to stay in Port St. Lucie, in St. Lucie County. They will be adding at least another 50 jobs. They have gotten approval to build a 400,000 square feet, so 4 with 5 zeros. 400,000 square feet facility to expand your manufacturing and to have distribution. They'll be located in the Tradition Commerce Park. They will be kind of the first large footprint tenant in that park, and as a result of their agreeing to locate in that location, we're seeing other activity and other very strong interest as we go through that process. So the governor announced a grant of $3 million to help further that. It is in the Southern Grove area. If you haven't been down there, it's exploding. So we have a loop road being constructed that we got the grant for, as well as $1 million out of the Tradition Economic Development Fund. And so that yields a $4 million road project that it will enable over 100 acres of new commercial development in our community, with roads, with water, with sewer, with electricity, with everything that's needed for a business to come in there pad ready. And we are very pleased that our anchor is City Electric. So the Southern Grove area is for those of you who've been around a while, was classified as a development of regional impact, 3,600 acres. And it's kind of the second phase of Tradition, really. Three phase, the original where the Tradition Town Center is, Western Grove, which is a little bit west of there, and Southern Grove. Well, the unique thing about Southern Grove is this is the area for the future, I would say not just Port St. Lucie, but I think our region, the Treasure Coast region, for job generation. In that Southern Grove area is over 1,200 acres of land that was land used and zoned, has all of the entitlements for research, for light industrial, for office, very flexible land uses and zoning. And it's the place where you could build 100,000 square feet on grade. There are very few places like that in our county, very few places like that in our region. And so Southern Grove offers this unique opportunity for our region and for Port St. Lucie, but it's also what we're hearing from a lot of commercial brokers. There's no place like this in South Florida. There's no place with the kind of land and the accessibility right on I-95 where we can really grow the kind of businesses that'll give us the employment base and the economic impact of that development. So this year, we were approached by Tradition Land Company. And Tradition Land, some of you may have known them. They started out as core communities. They built St. Lucie West and then expanded to Tradition. They indicated that they were, as a company, they were going to be exiting Port St. Lucie. They've been a mainstay of our community in one form or another for 30 plus years. But Tradition Land informed us that they had sold most of their holdings. They had a contract and have a contract with a group called Mattamy Homes to buy about 1,200 acres of residential, low-density residential, and that basically ends most of Tradition Land's sale in the area. They had been trying to sell the jobs corridor and felt like that it would sell. It was a wonderful asset, but it had a longer horizon than they wanted to stay in the community. And so they approached the city council and asked the city council, would the city take the jobs corridor to ensure that it will be that place where we have our economic growth for the future. The council has tentatively agreed to take that property. It is a major undertaking for your city, but it also has enormous economic payoffs for our community. It is the place where businesses will grow in the future. This is a number that's kind of hard to get our arms around sometimes. It is permitted for almost 10 million square feet of business, light industry, office, commercial. So has incredible potential for us as a city. So this is the Southern Grove right here, and you can see it on our drone shot. has a frontage of I-95 over here. This is the actual property here. The property that the City Council will be accepting is 1,247 acres. And so it really gives us the opportunity to grow both the large footprint business and the smaller businesses. And Pete is actively helping to identify businesses that want to buy or lease in that area. I know in the last week he's called me at least 2 times. I got one, and so we would hope to have some announcements really soon, continuing the momentum in that area. So, like you would be if somebody said, okay, you've got 1,247 acres, what are you going to do with it? As a city, it's probably not our strength to be a developer. So one of the things we've approached this opportunity with is we will need and want joint venture partners. So we're currently seeking joint venture partners that will help us perhaps buy some of the land, or will take some on option and market it using their private funds and be our partner as we develop this property. It is a long-term vision. It's not going to happen in a year. It's not going to happen in 5 years. It's probably a 10-year or more absorption rate for that much land. But the more South Florida develops, and with their infill lots in South Florida, Broward, Palm Beach County have all but disappeared, they're going to come here. We're ready. We have partners with the EDC, with the county. This will be the place for our economic development growth. So one of the opportunities we have as a city is what we now call the Florida Center for Biosciences. You may remember it as VGTI. We are currently marketing that building. It is now owned by the city. When I came and spoke to this group last year, it was under the control of a receiver who did very little, if anything, to try to sell that property. It's 107,000 square feet. It is Class A laboratory and research space. We hired a firm called Avison and Young. They are actively promoting and marketing the facility, and almost weekly we have one or more prospects go through the building. We haven't sold it yet, but we feel like we're getting close because we definitely have a lot of interest in the building, and it's a unique piece of property in the nation with this Class A laboratory and research space. So it will sell, and we are certainly hopeful as a city that it sells quickly, but it's something we can all be proud of, because the businesses that will go in there will be very good employers. And then right here in this city center, this is your civic center, but this is also called the City Center as a planned unit development. You may recall, if you've been around a while, that it started out with a guy named DeGuardiola, who was the original master developer. DeGuardiola hit the recession and turned loose of the property. He sold it to a woman named Lily Zong, and Lily was a fraud. She wasn't a real developer. She was a fraud. She was selling EB-5 certificates to folks in China and the Far East. She actually wasn't delivering anything. She just took their money. During the last year, we have worked with the receiver. The receiver is really partnering with the city of Port St. Lucie. He has a contract to sell the building or the property. It's 20 acres, 22 parcels. He's working up kind of the final dotting I's and crossing T's on that contract before it's presented to the city for our blessing. But the developer that he has a contract with is well known in South Florida. He has developed a number of office buildings, multifamily units, shopping centers. He's the real deal, and his vision is to have multifamily housing, retail, some office, and to have restaurants that will be an entertainment district around our civic center. And it really will fulfill that vision that started almost 10 years ago, but got interrupted between the recession and a fraudulent owner for a period of time. So I've seen his concept plan. It's very doable. I believe it was something that our community will embrace, and it will get this property back into our private sector economy. So, anybody heard of the Crosstown Parkway? Yeah. How many of you voted for the Crosstown Parkway? That's very good. So 89% of our registered voters that cast their vote on an election as to whether you wanted to tax yourselves, and that's an important issue, voted yes to tax ourselves as Port St. Lucie taxpayers to build the Crosstown Parkway. It's been a long time coming. We built most of it early on. The final piece was the Crosstown Parkway Bridge, so going across the North Fork of the St. Lucie River. The mayor mentioned good news. This is really good news. So we let the contract, I think it was last spring. They started construction. We have a great contractor, very reliable, really know what they're doing as a bridge contractor. And they are now maybe close to more than a third through of the whole project. We have been very fortunate that they let no grass grow under their feet. And so I want to give you a little bit of glimpse of what's going on right now. So mark your calendars. The mayor, the council members remind me pretty frequently. This building will be complete by November 2019, or this bridge will be complete by November 2019. Now we're going to try to beat that, but that's our date. And we're going to have the best party you've ever seen to celebrate the opening of the Crosstown Parkway. So if you have an idea of something we should do, or you want to make a contribution, that'd be even better, to the Crosstown party, let me know. Christina Superga is our party leader here, so seek Christina out if you have a great idea for the Crosstown Bridge opening party, because it's going to be a special event for our community. So a couple of other things and projects that are ongoing that are really important to our city. One is if you're familiar with the Botanical Gardens, that area is generally called Westmoreland Park. The City Council identified a desire to have a really first-class waterfront park in that area, Riverfront Park. And so there are 3 or so major elements of the park right now that are happening. One is, this is a boardwalk. The boardwalk will go all the way, eventually, under Port St. Lucie Boulevard and connect up with the Veterans Memorial Boardwalk that comes off of Rivergate. But this section right here is designed, we are fairly certain that we will get the permits to construct this section from the Corps of Engineers around July. And that will be a project that will start this calendar year to build the boardwalk. These are historic homes. The council indicated that they wanted to have a historic village that would celebrate our heritage. And as you know, in a city that was founded in 1961, you know, you have to look to where is our heritage. But we do have some homes. This is called the Peacock House, and actually it's not a real good picture. It's actually a really good looking house. This is the back of it. But this Peacock House is out currently on Verano's property, and it'll be moved to this location right here, along with a hunting lodge that was a companion structure to the Peacock House. That movement will start in June, so you may be inconvenienced at some point in June, coming down Floresta, coming down Prima Vista, St. Lucie West Boulevard, because we'll be moving 2 big houses. It'll be at least a 2-day drive to relocate the homes. They'll be placed on this site. We'll have a new foundation. Once they're on site, they'll get new roofs and be dried in. But frankly, we don't have any money to renovate them. So that'll be a community project. How do we take these homes that are part of our history, part of our fabric as a community, and how do we ensure that people can enjoy them, can go in them, can look and see how they felt, you know, in the early 1900s. So we'll be looking and hoping that you know, folks in the community will step up and help to renovate the buildings inside. We'll have the envelopes in good shape, the outside, but we need help on the inside because you know, I think we'll all want to be able to participate and know that this was part of our historic fabric. So this is another area of opportunity. One of the goals of the City Council has been that we want to have a restaurant, a waterfront restaurant in Port St. Lucie. We have waterfront. Most of the community doesn't see it that much. We want you to be able to come and really recognize what an important gem the North Fork of the St. Lucie River is. And so we're partnering with private sector restaurants to look at this site and to actually have a waterfront restaurant. Our goal would be that we'll make the land available on some long-term lease basis. The private sector will build and operate the restaurant, and we'll all get to go there and enjoy it. So I think it's very doable. There kind of have been, you know, we've had this critical path of getting these other pieces together. This is bid, and we'll start construction, both some site work as well as the relocation of the historic structures in June. The boardwalk will be happening this year. And in the restaurant, we're looking to get started as a cooperative partnership with a private entity. So if you live in Port St. Lucie, you'll know that in the historical part of our community, the platted community, it was 80,000 lots. And it wasn't established in neighborhoods, frankly, because GDC that developed our community wasn't really a city builder. They were selling land. So they platted 80,000 lots. And so one of the things that makes it a little bit difficult for the city is how do we establish identity in our neighborhoods and our community? And so we've had a program going on for a couple years through our neighborhood improvement program to reach out to folks who live in our community and ask them, where do you think you live? What do you have a neighborhood? Is your neighborhood named? What do you think are the boundaries? And so our NICE program has been going on through neighborhood improvement. One of the things I think many of you have probably seen is our utility box artwork. You like that? Yeah, it's inexpensive, really nice, really sets us apart. We're trying to do parks in many of the neighborhoods that are big enough to accommodate a park. Woodland Trails Park will be opening late this month, early next month. We've had beautification programs, signs, identification markers for our neighborhoods, but probably most importantly, we went through a naming process. We engaged citizens in every area and asked them to identify where do you live, and then we, through a democratic process, let them vote as to what is the name of their neighborhood. And it's been very successful. Most of our platted area now, we have neighborhoods that are clearly identified, they're named, and then that lets us engage the citizens around improvements to their neighborhoods. So it's not just the city working on improving neighborhoods, it's the residents as well. So I'm not nearing the end, I'm at the beginning. Mr. Mayor, I'm at the beginning now. So you've heard about a number of different projects that the city has had great success on this year. But the beginning now is where do we all start? So the county commission has voted to place a half-cent sales tax on the ballot for November of this year. And so and our city council has endorsed that sales tax and has identified a number of projects. And so we want to let you know that part of the goal of the sales tax is to continue these kind of investments in infrastructure, in roads and sidewalks in our community. So the theme of that sales tax is better roads, more sidewalks, and cleaner rivers. So it's a half-cent sales tax. It raises about $18 million a year. The city of Port St. Lucie will get a little bit over $8 million a year, and 100% of it will go to roads and sidewalks, either repaving existing roadways, building new sidewalks. We have a 10-year master plan for sidewalks that wasn't funded. I mean, it had some funds dedicated to it, but it really would not have been done in 10 years. If voters should choose to approve this half-cent sales tax, it will be done in 10 years or less, as well as our 10-year resurfacing plan. So some of the projects that will be done in Port St. Lucie, substantial, significant improvements in St. Lucie West Boulevard, improvements at each of the intersections, adding additional turn lanes, eliminating the stacking that's happening at many of the intersections on St. Lucie West Boulevard. Floresta, major north-south corridor of the city, has stackings during peak hours, and we'll be making improvements to eliminate a lot of the conflict points, as well as to make it a really nice street for people who walk, people who ride their bikes, and people who drive. So it'll be what's called a complete street. Significant amount of the funding goes to sidewalks and repaving. We'll be expanding our traffic signal synchronization program to include Port St. Lucie Boulevard and Crosstown Parkway. Typically, you can get between a 5% and an 8% increase in capacity by a properly synchronized traffic signal program. And so we'll be doing that, and we'll be doing US 1 improvements right down through here, including landscaping, trying to really bring back US 1 to be the place to be on the east side of the community. So I've mentioned a lot of things. You can get all of this information on the city's website. This year we did an annual report. It's 100% online. Please, if you get a chance, look at it. It tells you about a lot of our projects and a lot of the good things that have happened, with the city in the last year. And finally, visit our website. We have a new website. It is very robust, it's very friendly, and really easy to navigate. And so it tells you everything you want to know about the city of Port St. Lucie. All right.